Noonins in London are delighted to be able to present for auction in February next year the collection of East India Company coins formed by Robert Puddester. Mr. Puddester has formed this collection over the last 45 years, and the part of the collection being sold in February next year will cover the period from 1600 to the uniformity of Indian coinage under the company's rule in 1835. Altogether there are 1,250 coins going to be offered in 900 lots over this 2-day sale. This is the most spectacular sale of its kind that's ever been held. Mr. Puddester started collecting the coins of the East India Company in 1977. The East India Company itself was founded in 1599 by a group of merchant adventurers in London, and they made the first voyage out to the Indies in 1600, 1601, 1602. So it took a long time to get out to that part of the world in those days. It took months, and they took goods with them to trade with people in the Orient, and the Portuguese and other explorers were already there trading with people that were in the ports of Bantam and the present-day Sumatra, and junks were coming down from China, so there was a big international trade down there, and that's what the East India Company was originally formed to do. And then by the 1630s, when they'd actually got a bit of a hold in India, then the company started to get in the process of establishing presidencies. The first presidency established was the Madras Presidency in 1635, and then in the mid-1660s Charles II gave the island of Bombay to the company from the English Crown. The island of Bombay was an English dependency at the time, and they actually gave that to the company. And the last of the 3 presidencies founded was the Bengal Presidency in East India, and Robert Clive, or Clive of India, had a big hand in that, and that in fact turned out to be one of the richest presidencies of the 3, really. And then all the coinage, each presidency had its own coinage, but the English government were at the start of the 19th century putting pressure on the company to bring all their coinages into line across India, but that didn't happen until 1835, when the coinage of India was unified under the East India Company banner. The first coin I'd like to talk about is one of the East India Company portcullis coins, which is the first series of coins made for the company. These were struck at the Tower Mint in London in early 1601, specifically for the voyage for that first voyage that was going out to the East Indies. The coins were made in a series of 4 denominations: 8, 4, 2, and 1 testern piece, and the piece here is a 2 testerns from the collection of a man called Archbishop John Sharp, who put together a collection at the end of the 17th century. So this is a coin with a very, very long provenance, and also a piece that probably did not go to the Far East, because there were a small number of pieces of this series were actually struck and retained by the directors of the company in London, so they didn't travel on the ships going out there. The first coins of the Madras Presidency series, the earliest of the 3 presidencies, the first gold coins were struck from the early 1690s. We don't really know too much because the records are very imprecise, and this particular one was struck about 1703. The period that gold coins were struck at this time was a very, very short period, probably only a decade or more, just for odd instances. But so these things are extremely rare, and there are very, very few survivors now. Moving forward 100 years, still with the Madras Presidency, we have the new series of coins that were struck in 1807 and then revised in 1808. And this particular coin is from a specimen set, which is a modern terminology, but this would be a set of the different denominations that were issued: pagodas, half pagodas, quarter pagodas. and the coins were actually sent round to the collectors, to the bankers of the different districts in the Madras Presidency, so that these people would know what these coins looked like, and they would know when people offered them in business, they would know what they were about, because the designs did change. So the mint needed to put round specimen sets to the different collectors so that people knew what was now current. One of the most spectacular coins that Mr. Puddester owns from the Madras Presidency series is this special double rupee struck at Masulipatam in 1779. We don't know the reason for it, but the very, very few specimens are known. These coins would not have seen circulation, so they must have had some kind of special significance to people at the time, and we're not really sure what that significance is or was. But then again, this coin is only known from one or possibly two pieces, and it is one of the really, really desirable items that are considered as such by people in India and outside India as well. But within India, this is a really, truly spectacular coin. Moving to the Bombay Presidency, these are the jewels in the collection. There are 8 coins altogether, which, as I've said, really form the centerpiece of the whole group. We're starting with the Bombay 1765 gold series. These coins were the first authenticated gold coins within the Bombay Presidency. Up until then, the company had only been authorised to make silver coins. They're made from melted down Venetian ducats, so very unusually, the standard of gold in them is actually 24 carats, as fine as you can get. The series of 1765, there's mohurs, there's a half moher, which is unique, and a quarter moher, and all of the mohurs and the quarter mohurs are only known from 3 or 4 specimens each, but the half moher is unique. So it is one of the real prizes of the collection. In fact, all these 3 coins are real prizes of the collection because there are very, very few specimens known, and the coinage basically didn't last more than a year or 2 before they were all called in and replaced by the next coin. Apart from the high standard of gold used in the 1765 issues, they weren't really welcomed by the populace because of the symbolism on them. The arms of the East India Company were not something that were on the coinage generally used by the population at the time. People that used coins with Persian inscriptions on them, if not on both sides, then certainly on one side, and that's the reason why the 1765 coinage failed. And in 1770, the local governor Thomas Hodges proposed a new coin, which is a coin of 15 rupees, and this coin was designed for acceptance by people because one side of it has Persian inscription, the other side has English inscription, so it was meant to appeal to both people. Mr. Puddester's example of the 15 rupees, which is going to be sold by Noonans, is the finest example known. There was only been one other example sold on the open market in the last 20 years, not as nice as this one. So it's a real prize in the collection and one for collectors to aspire to. So the first coins of the Bombay Presidency were silver Anglinas struck at the Bombay Mint. Started in 1668 when Charles II gave the island of Bombay to the company, but it wasn't until 1673, 1674 that a mint was established to make coins to pay the garrison on Bombay. Obviously silver coins were needed to pay the garrison as well as copper. So there was a series of silver coins called Anglinas were struck from 1674. This particular one on the screen is unique. There are 4 different types of Anglinas. This is the second one to have been made, and there are no other specimens known of it. So it's a real prize in the collection. And at the time, people were The population were not used to these coins at all because of the East India Company arms on them. The population were used to handling rupees struck at Surat and Portuguese copper coins and a mishmash of things. So these coins weren't received very well in the first place, but the garrison knew the value of them, and so they were happy to be paid in them at the time. The third presidency coins in the collection are the coins of Bengal, and an early issue of Bengal was this fabulous gold moher with a big C on the reverse of it, and this has been an intriguing coin. It was first known in 1938, and we're not quite sure what the C means, whether it means the C relates to Robert Clive of India, whether it relates to Alexander Campbell, who was the mint master at Bombay at the time it was struck in 1766, or whether it is just the C for Calcutta, as the city would have been known to English people, not to locals, because the locals would have called it Calcutta with a K. So it's an intriguing coin. It's unique, as many of the coins in the collection are, and this particular piece did not see an awful lot of circulation. Very few of them were made. There's only one survivor known to us today, and here it is. This is my personal favourite in the whole of the Puddester collection, a double rupee struck at Pulta by John Prinsep, who was a merchant to the East Indies companies, and he was the first person to actually put together a proper mechanical mint in the 1780s in India. This coin is so far ahead of its time. It's unreal. There's nothing else like this was being made in India at the time, and it even had an edge inscription, which was something that had not really been achieved with any great success up to that point in time. And this is a really fabulous coin, and I will be very jealous of the person who ends up buying this at the auction. The final highlight coin I'd like to talk about today is this Calcutta pattern rupee struck in 1818, and it reflects the company's wish to bring in standardized imagery across its coinages. It had been attempting to do this for the previous 10 or 12 years before this coin was struck, and it's a transitional piece really between the idea of having a coinage across the three presidencies of India and achieving that in 1835, which is where this part of the collection ends. The Puddester collection of Indian coins is one of the most significant dispersals that's ever taken place by auction, and it is our fervent wish, and Mr. Puddester's fervent wish, that these coins go on to be collected and appreciated by other collectors into the future, as Mr. Puddester has looked after them for the last 45 years. Noonans is proud to be offering this collection. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for sure, and we hope that the coins are appreciated by clients wherever in the world they may be collecting Indian coins. The first part of the Puddester collection will be sold by Noonans in London on the 8th and 9th of February 2023, and we look forward to the pleasure of your company on that occasion. Thank you.